and Harad Meher is on the course.
Louise Watson, as the British 10,000 metre runner, one would have expected to see you running here today.
No, unfortunately, although I'd love to be running here, I've been suffering from an injury for the past 7 or 8 months, so no, I'm just a spectator today.
Are you looking forward to the women's race?
Yes, to some degree. I mean, I'd like to be out there racing, obviously, with them, but it would be interesting to see how they're all doing and just sort of scope the scene, so to speak.
Who are you tipping to win today?
Well, after the trial, they had the trials for the World Cross Country Championships last week. You've got to look at Lucy Elliott as being the firm favourite, because Hayley Hayning, who won the trial, she's from Scotland, so she's out of the frame. And then there's Suzanne Rigg, Angela Davies and Andrea Whitcomb will be there sort of chasing her in, I think. So it should be an interesting race.
Well, this is the 65th year of this particular event. One of the teams there thinking they're late for the start, the City of Norwich ladies team in their red and yellow strip. The starter just about ready though for the 450 athletes to get underway. The distance here, 6 kilometres, and a great deal at stake, of course. The English title, been going not as many years as the men's championship, but nevertheless still regarded as something that carries great prestige in the sport of athletics worldwide, not just in the UK.
And some are starting a little slower than others at the back, but that's what the National is all about. Come and take part. It doesn't matter who you are, you can come and run. And as they head off into the distance, the spectators wait patiently for them to come back round again.
Yes, the junior men just finishing in the foreground. Very, very well coordinated, these sorts of events. Takes a massive organisational effort to get the afternoon to run smoothly. But those women running over a surface which is anything but smooth.
Well, the race well underway already, and some starting slow at the back, but at the front they've gone off very, very quickly indeed. Liz Talbot, Lucy right there, can see from City of Leeds, and of course Andrea Whitcomb there, just closest to the camera on this side, trying to pick her way through some good ground. And the water lying in many areas, and the mud really starting to go ankle deep now. We've had many, many athletes going through, of course, with all of the junior races, and the senior women and the senior men always get the worst of the conditions. We'll have to plough their way through. Lucy Elliott will not enjoy the mud. You can see her behind there in 4th place in the black and white strip. Not her conditions at all here.
Talbot leading, lights to lead. Does Liz Talbot, always goes out hard. Spent most of last year out injured with that left knee injury. Great to see her back, and she's running with perhaps that little bit of extra hunger. The same could be said of Andrea Whitcomb too, back in 2nd place in the turquoise shorts from the Parkside Club. Spent a couple of years out of the sport between 93 and 95, and really is still gaining in fitness. And right up with a pair of them, Lucy Wright from the Leeds Club.
Lucy Elliott there, struggling to stay with the leading pack and leading the 2nd group. Zara Hyder can see there also. Lucy Elliott not enjoying the muddy parts of the course, beginning to stride out a little bit here where the ground's rather firmer. 2nd of course, in the trials last week and turning out again in the national championships, but picking her way through the mud. And 3 of them already away from her, and that gap's quite large.
Point of contention, that, Steve, really, whether athletes who've got the World Cross Country in their sights 2 weeks away really need this race. Lucy Elliott's had a very busy winter's racing, winner of the Inter-Counties back in January. She's raced a great deal on the IAAF Cross Challenge circuit, and here she is giving ground to 2 athletes that through most of this winter she'd probably have finished ahead of. They've peaked right for this race, but a great battle developing between Liz Talbot and Andrea Whitcomb. All credit to Andrea Whitcomb on the right there, just 5 feet tall, but covering this ground very, very competently indeed. Looks so comfortable, and I rather think Talbot beginning to struggle here. The head is back a little bit.
And these athletes trying to chase those first 3 down. Whitcomb now beginning to pour it on, and Liz Talbot will have to work hard if she wants to hang on to her. Lucy Wright back in 3rd place, safe at the moment. That chasing pack not too far behind. Whitcomb does look good at the moment, really pumping those arms, looks very strong indeed. Working hard up the hill. And this is the chasing group. You can see Lucy Elliott in the middle there, beginning to lose ground as these athletes begin to pass her.
Yeah, Lucy not comfortable there, Steve. I mean, there's 1 or 2 athletes in that group that Lucy would have finished way ahead of earlier on in the winter. This is an athlete, really, who has peaked well. Came 5th in the trials last week, was disappointed with that. But twice winner of this race before. Looks to be heading for a hat-trick, Andrea Whitcomb, for the Parkside Club. That's great to see.
And that, that's Lucy Elliott there. Now, well, she's obviously dropped out now. Well, you know, as you were saying, it's been a tough programme. She's had a very good winter, an excellent winter indeed, and these conditions are not for her today. Our cameraman managing to pick her out as she jogs back towards the start-finish area. So bad news for Lucy Elliott.
Don't suppose she'll think that. Thank that particular cameraman, Steve. These women struggling on. Who knows how many women in there are having a great run and have peaked there at winter very well indeed. A lot of these athletes, of course, will just regard this as part of their preparation for the London Marathon coming up in April. Cross-country season, an integral part of any distance runner's programme. But Andrea Whitcomb here surely has her mind on Turin. This is the sort of performance that will really give her a lot of confidence and project her towards Turin. Every possibility of finishing in the top 20, maybe 25 there. Of course, when you come to the World Championships, it's a totally different ball game. Very fast, flat courses there. You can be sure, 100% sure, there won't be any mud on that course in Italy.
Well, Lucy Elliott picking her way still through the mud. Even when you drop out, you've still got to claw through this stuff. And I'm sure she's rather disconsolate at the minute. As I said, it's always, for people of her standard, not a nice thing to have to drop out, but sometimes you know you're flogging a dead horse.
Well, only 2 women in this race who made the World Cross Country team. Lucy Elliott was one of them. She's decided to drop out and save it for another day. Andrea Whitcomb out in front, having a very different experience. But Liz Talbot there, chasing gamely. But as you said, Steve, she really is beginning to click along nicely. She's got quite a short, stubby little stride, but it covers the ground very effectively. Pretty good for this sort of surface, picking her way through the mud there. She knows she's got the race won now. And when you get out in front in a race of this calibre, with a field that size behind you and with so many spectators out on the course, the adrenaline, of course, is flowing. Once you're out in front, it's very hard to be pulled back.
Well, that gap very large now, and Liz Talbot will have to keep one eye over her shoulder, because Lucy Wright has relentlessly been closing that gap between 2nd and 3rd. And Leeds will be hoping that Lucy Wright can maybe lead them to some joy in the team race also. That's James from Aldershot, and just behind Zara Hyde.
Zara Hyde probably getting more support than anybody in the top 20 or 30. She's a local girl, runs for the Havant Club, and right up there in the top 10. Everything to go for there. Tell you what, Steve, I think I'd like running on this course myself. A lot of it fast running. There are a great number of boggy, difficult patches, but Whitcomb making light of it all. How do you reckon you'd have coped? This is a leading question.
Okay on the fast bits, not so good on the muddy bits. The thing I always used to find with them, it's these bits here, these stretches where you really can't get going. It just takes all of the energy out of your legs, and your spirit drops, and you think, dear me, what am I doing here? But for the likes of you, it must have been a different ball game.
Your trouble on Saturday afternoons is you're always thinking about Sunderland, isn't it?
I like to think they've happier times here for Andrea Whitcomb. She strides up now with the finish in sight. She takes one more look over her shoulder, doesn't have far to go now. She knows that another national title is for her. Of course, the Parkside club that she's running for, on many occasions the national champions. Sadly for them, Sylvia Parker, who has been stalwart of their club, no longer around. And I'm sure that Andrea Whitcomb may have a word to say for her in memoriam of a great club, shall I say, behind the scenes person. And that's what the National Championships is about, not just the people who are taking part, but the people who come and look after the athletes and get the teams together and do all the organising. For Andrea Whitcomb, it's another title under her belt.
It is indeed. Very big crowds gathering around the finish for the athletes coming in at the end of these two senior races. The men up next, but this is Andrea Whitcomb heading for a unique hat-trick. In the 65 years of this event, nobody has won the title 3 times. She will be the first. She won it in 1990, defended successfully the following year, has had a couple of years out of the sport since then, but the 25-year-old bookies accountant comes home now for her 3rd title. She is the English national cross-country champion, and a big smile across her face there. I'm sure memories of Sylvia Parker, who helped her reach this sort of standard of running, who passed away just recently, as Steve said, in her mind now. A very emotional moment for her. Comfortable victory too there. Able to shake hands of one or two of the long-suffering officials in the funnel there. And Lucy Wright it is who takes 2nd place. Great running from her. Some way down throughout the middle stages of the race, but came back and passed Liz Talbot, so the Leeds athlete takes the silver medal. And there's Liz Talbot. You can see there the really hard effort has taken its toll on her, and a battle for 4th here. Coming home to 4th place is Singleton of Liverpool, just passing Thompson of Bath there. Every place matters. The team scores, of course, yet to be totted up. Well, Andrea Whitcomb used to victory, not only individually, but for her team. Parkside have won this title 8 times in the past, the last 8 years. Leeds City, though, scoring well with 2 in the top 6. Wright and Talbot taking those silver and bronze medals. But Parkside's dominance of women's cross-country under threat, and there it is, Leeds City taking the gold medals. Aldershot and Havant take the minor medals.
Andrea Whitcomb, congratulations. How do you feel?
Really pleased. I'm really pleased with the run. It felt quite strong, and it's good to win.
Did the race tactically go as you'd planned it?
I hadn't really sat down and made that many plans. After having a bit of a bad run in the trials last week, I was a little bit dubious of how I'd run, but I thought I'd just get to the front and hopefully, just if I felt good, just push the pace and try and pull away.
Well, only one race left, and that's the senior men.